What is up, everybody? I hope you're doing well. Welcome back to some Microsoft Flight Sim. I'm sorry, I really not say that "to" there. But welcome back to Microsoft Flight Sim 2024, where today we're looking at the FlightBeam Washington Dulles add-on. Now, this was one of my first purchases again, back in the FSX days, P3D 2020, and now for 2024. So, overall, I'm a big fan of it. Now, Dulles is just one of my favorite airports. I've flown out of it, no joke, probably 100 times in my life. So I'm very partial to this, which also means that I have high expectations for it. So let's go ahead and take a look. First things first, I want to look at the main terminal, the most iconic. Well, I don't want to say most iconic, but one of the most iconic terminals in the world, and it's a cool looking terminal. So overall, we do have some interiors where that is the style of them. I'm pretty okay with this just being this level of plane. It kind plane. We're at an airport, haha, fun. Um, Overall, it's fine. It wasn't needed to have an interior. A little bit of an interior is nice, but the terminal itself does look good. The polygons on it though are, you're not super curved right here, which I assume is partially just to, every time you curve something smooth in games, you're adding polygons, which is just flat surfaces. Because in video games, a round object is just a crap ton of polygons. That's why older games are so flat with things and boxy. And everything you have to do has to be rendered, and so it is a big optimization booster when you can do stuff like this. So, you know, not the biggest deal in the world, but would like to see it kind of maybe updated. We do have the people movers here. Honestly, one of my favorite parts of Dulles, getting to drive around in them and get to see planes from different views that you normally don't get to see. So let's go ahead and look at the A and B gates, where these interiors are, they're not bad. They're almost too dark though. Like you can see these, but it's like at some point, add some lighting or something to make them a little bit better. We have dual jetways where they're needed. We do have the iconic Dulles gray jetways. That is very much a Dulles thing. So it is nice to see the jetways kind of match uh, the airport. I'm assuming this is yep, 2D control tower. Not a big deal. I do remember these moving, and I think it was P3D, and I'd like to see them updated. I think the San Francisco one, I forgot the name of it, but San Francisco has moving trams, and I think that was more purpose built for 2020. And I think Dulles was probably just more of a port. It might have even been a P3D port to 2020 to 2024. Can't confirm, but that's probably why they aren't moving. That's one thing I'd like to see updated. Overall, ground textures look good. Jetways look good. Optimization is pretty good so far. Little stutter, not fully as optimized as I think their San Francisco, which, like I said, I think San Francisco was hand built for Flight Sim 2020. We do have the custom private terminals and hangars over here, which is nice, especially with how GA and kind of non-commercial flying, more the private sector, whether it be GA or private jets, has become kind of like a big thing in 2024. It's nice to see that this area looks good. The textures are they're not bad. They're just a little flat, and I don't know if dull's the right word, but I don't know. I'd like to see a little bit kind of worked on. I can't even put my finger on what it is, but I hope that kind of makes sense. Overall, that's fine. Kind of the same issue I had with Denver. I would like to see these textures, especially in, like, immediately around the airport, update a little. You have this little bit of area which is kind of nestled in the airport. I think it's important to try and build up those textures just a little to kind of have something a little nicer. and then kind of have it, once it hits over here, you can dull it down. That's fine. I think these are some old textures because the difference in the green and stuff between here and there is noticeable. Um, Now this is kind of annoying where we have one set of textures here versus one there. At least that's what it looks like. That's kind of, yeah. So that's something I'd like to see kind of fixed. Overall, the textures around here aren't terrible. They're not the prettiest, but not the end of the world. Uh, Over here we have these guys. Like this is one of the things that bothers me. Like either like give us a substation, or honestly, in a case like this, I'm fine with you just texturing over it. Like give me just some flat grass texture. That's not the end of the world. But with how 2020 is in 2024, especially, smaller buildings are kind of important in these filler objects. I mean, we have this, and I'm pretty sure this is the AI area, and we have it pretty good. Even the parking textures are a little bit nicer. Um, so that's kind of one of those things that's like, mm, while it was good for P3D and FSX, and even 2020, I think for 2024, the ground textures really need to step up their game. Over here we have the museum, which it looks good. It looks very clean. I don't. I want to see. The problem is I want to pull up my drone thing again, but then it's gonna throw me back into the cockpit, and by the time I do that, I could just move there slowly. This is nice. I'm glad that they have this. This is one of those benefits of, or not a benefit, but it's one of those things that kind of boosts up the scenery. Like you have an important part of the airport that's not at the airport. So to me, it's important that this was in there. It's iconic on like thing you'll see on landing. So overall, that looks good, clean, well textured. You have the taxiway that leads all the way over there. So if you wanted to do some flight over here, you could. Not a big deal. A little bit of studies. So what I'm seeing is this dark. This is my guess right now. We have these trees right here that are very dark versus these lighter green trees. I'm thinking this is probably where they added in some, like this is modded foliage, probably back from the P3D FSX days where the trees were just, they were not good in the base game. And so adding in some custom trees is, where it's at. So that's that's kind of a bonus, but I think it's one of those things that you don't really need it now, and I'd like to see these trees. Hi, kitty. I'm sorry, my cat just jumped in my lap while I'm trying to do YouTube. I'd like to see these trees removed and replaced with, default FlightSim 24 trees. That way, it blends the modded versus the vanilla areas together and has a little bit more of a kind of a smooth transition. Because, where you have a defined edge, and this was one thing I remember from the P3D days, where the ground textures just weren't good on the base game, and you had the ground textures for here when it was in that time were very good, or at least very good for that time period. So it's very like you knew where the terrain stopped and started, and I'd like to kind of see that go away now. Um, I think we're at that point with the sim that's very possible and possible. I'm sorry, kind of recording this kind of late at night, so I'm a little blah about things. But one thing I've noticed is right over here, because I don't think it's that. There is a giant United hangar, and I'm pretty sure it belongs right here. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's definitely not. I don't think it's that. I'm pretty sure it's right there. So that's kind of one of those things that's like, I'd like to see that. We do have some United aircraft parked over here. These are, I'm pretty sure these are part of the scenery and not the sim. They just, yeah, looking at how those cowls are not as round as the sim ones, which is fine because, it's one of those things. You're never going to be, if you're taxiing past, you're not going to be looking at the cows being like, I wonder if they're round. So, a fine optimization thing, but same things with these FedEx planes. You know, I don't really mind it. I think it's cool. I'd rather have the planes that belong there over random Flight Sim 24 things. So not the end of the world. Like here, for example, there's a glider here that doesn't belong. But yeah, overall, I think we didn't take a look at the C and D gates, but there's really not too much to look at different. Overall, I don't think these have an interior. Yeah, they don't, which is fine. I don't mind not having interiors, especially with this where you don't have really great windows. You have these slots, or sorry, slots most of the time, or slats. Well, slits. There we go. Uh, so, it's not the end of the world. Taxiway markings do look good. Um, eh, that's probably the realistic size, so I can't hate on anything. I would just say I'd like to see these bigger, but if that's the realistic size, that's on the airport. Uh, I feel like there is a bigger building right here, and like this building could use a little bit of a building out and kind of a touch up. So, overall, let's uh, let's kind of talk about this, what I think about it. Would I buy it for? I think it was we'll go off the $20 one. That's usually the price for most of these, and we'll assume it's that because unfortunately, when I buy it off the Contrails app, I can't see the price anymore, which is kind of annoying. So off $20, I would say if you're gonna fly out of Dulles more than once or twice a month, it's worth a buy simply because you have the the airport looks right. It has a very distinct look. The buildings are very unique, for better or worse. I know the CD gates are hated by some, loved by some. So I would definitely suggest for that price, and if you're gonna buy it, or if you're gonna fly out 1-2 times a month, it's worth a buy. Um, let's kind of now let's break it down though for the people on the fence. The pros. Hey, the terminal buildings look good. It has the right looking jetways. As far as I know, the taxiways and the runways are updated. Nothing really like that has changed. As well, it's fairly well optimized. And I do like the static planes. The static planes that are by the cargo area, those United ones. I don't think I saw any over here. Oh, there are a few over here. Um, I honestly I like that as a bonus. It makes the airport feel a little bit nicer, especially when it's the right planes in the right spots. Now, the cons. Buildings aren't updated. Some of the ground textures really need to be touched up. I mean, at the 16 left runway, there's like two textures over there, so that's a big one. Uh, I said the buildings. I would like to see the trees redone. The black, dark green trees don't really mesh well with the kind of vibrant light green. I almost said lime green, but just the light green trees in base 2024. As well as these are kind of small and slender. 24s are pretty nice. They're very luscious. And while they might not be the right trees for the area, I would prefer the scenery to be a little unrealistic on the foliage and fit in with the world more than realistic foliage and clearly defined area. And my other big one, and we did mention kind of buildings, but um, 3D buildings are a must now. In FSX, P3D, and even a little 2020, small buildings like this, we understood what the sim was able to do, what it wasn't able to do, and stuff like this you had to leave out. You had this little building here, you had some small stuff to give it that little bit of a feeling like, hey, there is something over there. But in 2024, you need to have it. So, let me think. My rating out of 10, if they if they fix the texturing in the buildings, I would rate this an 8 out of 10. Without the buildings being fixed, it's probably a 7 out of 10. Because they're not a big deal, but I'd like to see it. And without the textures fixed, it's got to be like a 4.5 out of 10. The textures really are just killing me. You know, I don't mind some of them as much, but the mismatched textures, especially like over here, in the areas where you're gonna see it during flight, as well as like the texturing between the modded and unmodded. Like right here, this is just kind of give us whatever, like just give us grass, like call it like color it in, give it some green grass, and I'd be fine. So yeah, uh, unfortunately, we're gonna have to give this a 4.5 out of 10. But like I said, if you're gonna fly out of Dulles, it's better than the stock airport. But if you can pick it up for the $10, I would pick it up for $10, 100%. 10 to 15. That's a little harder to say. $20. It's a hard sell. But until next time, y'all have a good one. Goodbye.